Hello, everyone. It's April 3rd, 2023, and shit is wild out there. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of Luke, Who Is Your Father? A podcast about mystery, scandal, and triumph of the familial variety. Today, we'll be recapping last week's episode and telling you who our special guest is, and I'm sure causing some havoc along the way. I'm your host, Ricky.
I'm Jules.
I'm Kenny.
Oh, man.
Yeah, take that bread, girl.
So, it's good to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
It's always such a pleasure.
How are we feeling about last week's episode?
So good. It was so good to hear from Kathleen, and just like we're going to be doing for this entire time, learned a lot.
I was so impressed. She just did so well and was so open and honest, and I really loved spending that time sitting down with her.
Yeah, she's special. Just to recap for anyone who might be behind, last week, me, Julianne, and Kendall, who are the triplets separated at birth in question, talked to my mom, their birth mother, Kathleen. She walked us all the way through the journey of finding out that she was pregnant with triplets at 7 months, the adoption process, how she picked the adoptive parents, Julianne and Kendall's parents, Tina and Ken, and kind of gave us a little bit of insight into why the decisions were made, kind of everyone's mindset going into it, a little preview of her and my dad's tumultuous relationship. And this week, we actually are bringing on another very special guest, but before we get to that, and before we get to the crazy question of the day, I have an update from last week to share with you all, and waited to share it until now.
So excited.
Oh my gosh.
So, again, if you're tuning in late, last week, the crazy question of the day was, what's the wildest thing you've ever done for a man? And I imparted upon you the story of the man who faked his own death, which did not deter me from driving 3 hours to Galveston to go celebrate his birthday with him in an empty hotel restaurant, and driving the entire way back the next morning to work. And he proceeded to ghost me in my own apartment a couple weeks later. I shit you not.
No fucking way. No fucking way.
Yesterday, Colin and I were hiking McKinney Falls, and we're exiting the park, and I look up and I said, no fucking way.
You said, aren't you supposed to be dead?
Not only is it the not dead man in question, he has on a t-shirt that says in big, giant, black, bold letters, look alive.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Did you say anything?
We kept walking, and Colin turns and looks at me and goes, that shirt was so fucking weird, I was about to scare that guy. And I was like, depending on if he saw you with me first, I don't know what his reaction would have been, either to laugh a lot or lay you out. But yes, so it turns out he is very much alive, telling others to do the same.
Oh, wow. What a nice little full circle moment.
Wow.
I feel like we're going to be having a lot of those during this podcast. The universe tends to react to us.
It really does, man. That's so weird.
It does. To us more than others, I think.
Yeah.
Which is why we currently have candles burning in the other room, wrapped in ribbons that represent our light self and our dark self.
We'd be doing some witchy
We're doing
shit,
some
fucking
manifestation, y'all. We were trying to decide, and I don't know if you guys agree, we haven't actually talked about it. We were trying to decide our pregame and postgame rituals. And back in the day, that would have probably been a power hour with 6% beer.
11% beer.
11% beer, maybe ripping a shot ski. I think our pregame ritual should be a ritual, short one. And then I think postgame is still to be determined, but I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be effective, too.
I think our post-game ritual should be, we won't subject the audience to it right now.
Around the block.
Streaking around the block and
Skinny dipping.
doing the manifesto of the polar bear.
Oh,
absolutely.
duh. Okay, yeah.
For sure.
Maybe we'll save for some bonus content.
Manifesto of the polar bear. Yes. All right.
So, and I do want to disclaim, we did say that, I'm the most theatrical, dramatic, etc. If I'm ever about to tell a story that is not entirely true, I will preface it with the fact that it's not entirely true. That story was entirely fucking true.
I love that. I can't believe they kept that under wraps for a minute.
I know. So,
Shows real restraint.
I'm working on that. So, in the spirit of the crazy question of the day, Kendall, what is the crazy experience you've ever had with a celebrity?
The craziest experience I've ever had with a celebrity. Oh man. It's gonna be pretty boring, probably. I have to say, it was this one weekend. One of my favorite bands is Andrew McMahon, and all of his bands, because he's had a plethora of them. And
Can you give the audience an example?
we got Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, then he was just Andrew McMahon for a little bit. And now he's Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. And I was going to see one of his shows in Fort Collins. And I was also seeing him 2 days later, but this happened to be the show that I'm not a groupie. This happened to be the show that my boyfriend at the time was able to go see with me, and I wanted him to come see him. So we went to Fort Collins. There was a line around the block, and I was like, I'm not going to wait in that because I'm literally seeing him in 2 days. So let's just go get a drink next door. And went next door to a bar called The Whiskey, sitting there. And I look over at the door, and in walks Andrew McMahon himself. And I was like, holy shit. And so I spent probably 15 minutes trying to work up the courage to actually go speak to him, and then had nothing to say. And it was, I don't even remember, I was probably like, hi.
All three of us are prone to adrenaline blackouts.
Oh yeah, no idea. But, I really like your music. And then he gave me a hug, and then I went and sat back down. But I don't have a lot of brushes with celebrities.
That is just another example, though, of the universe reacting to us.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly because he didn't end up having an opener, so we didn't miss anything. And then I was in the fifth row, and when he came out into the crowd, we got to dance together and stuff. And it was really cool. So.
You hugged Andrew McMahon, you wild child. All right, Jules, you're up.
I had a couple that I was thinking of that were meeting celebrities. And then I realized, and I just need to apologize in advance and probably have a disclaimer that my boyfriend, I love you so much. You are going to hear some things on this podcast that happened a long time before you. And there they will stay. And I love you, and I'm sorry. But I did have an experience with a celebrity. I'm not going to say his name, if that's okay. It was a professional NFL football player who was at the time playing for the Denver Broncos, and he had a pretty long career in the NFL up to that point, and had kind of fucked it up, but he was still a well-known name. And I shit you not, I was on fucking Tinder swiping. And this guy had it's not a John or a Steve or a Chad. It was a very distinctive, because you don't only see first names on Twitter or whatever it's called, Tinder. And so I swiped right on him, and he swiped, and it matched. And I messaged him and I was like, I feel like this is a fucking joke. This is a joke. He was like, no, it's really me. And so we made plans to meet out in downtown Denver. I was with a couple girlfriends, and I decided that they didn't have enough game to, step up to NFL player league. And so I was talking to this running back at the bar, and we decided, okay, we're going to go to the next bar together. I can hold my alcohol. Sadly, it is a skill of mine. And we went to a bar called the Retro Room, and they had infused shots. So they had infused peppercini shots, which are the most fucking delicious thing in the entire world. But when you just take, mostly it's tequila, but when you take a shot and it just hits wrong, and you're not wasted, but you definitely have to throw up. So I took a shot with this guy, and we're walking to the next bar, just me and him, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go into this empty bar really quick. And we walk in, the bartender recognizes him immediately. I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. And I'm like stomping to the bathroom, and it was a projectile vomit into the door. I didn't make it to the toilet. I vomited all over the door, all over the floor, but I wasn't wasted. I was like, well, this is someone else's fucking problem at this point. So I walked back out, grab my jacket. I'm like, okay, let's go to the next bar. And we're walking arm in arm. He's like, why is your jacket wet? And I was like, the floor of the bathroom is wet. I don't know what you want from me. And so I proceeded to go to a hookah lounge with him. They closed the bar after hours, and we stayed there till like 4 a.m. And I did not like this guy. I don't think he was necessarily too fond of me either. But I'm like, I have to do this for the fucking plot. Like, period, end of story. Got to do this for the plot. So I decided I'm going to go home with him. And we're driving from downtown Denver to Castle Rock, which is not a short drive. It's like a 45-minute drive. And in like an Uber Black, he's basically falling asleep in the seat next to me. Get to this very, very isolated house. And I walk in, I'm like, this is an example of someone that has a lot of money and doesn't quite know how to use it yet. You like walk into this mansion, there's like a broken chair in the living room. And we spent the night together. And then I wake up to this man sprinting around his room, butt ass naked. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to miss the plane to Dallas. They were going to play the Cowboys. And he left me in his home. He was like, I'm going to call you a ride. I was like, I'm going back to bed. So he left me in his house, and I slept for a while. And then I woke up. I realized I didn't have my phone. So I had to get on his laptop, which was not password protected, and like message my friends on Facebook. I had to sprint out into the middle of the street and look at the intersections where I was so I could tell them where to come and get me. So they were on their way, and I was like, I need a souvenir from this house. So he's gone. He's gone on his flight. I'm like running around his house, and I wanted to be bad, but I couldn't really bring myself to take anything cool. So I took like 3 packages of top ramen from his pantry, and my friends came and picked me up. And lo and behold, he pops the fuck off in the Dallas game and had the best season of his career. I'm not going to say why.
The universe reacts to us.
The universe reacts to us. And we did not talk again. And I remember, because I don't think I have his phone number or anything, because I didn't even have my phone. And then I was on Tinder a few weeks later, and I saw him on there again. Like, no way. That was all that came of that. But, not my proudest moment, but a very good I told you I'm the black sheep. I will continue to prove that to you over and over again. But I stole some top ramen from an NFL player's house, and then he had the best season of his career.
Julianne says she can hold her alcohol and proceeds to tell us how she vomited on the floor of the bar.
That's not because I was wasted. It was from a peppercini shot. Fair enough, though. I was going to say I'm going to take the L, but I'm going to take the W on that one.
So did the Broncos.
All right, Ricky, you thought you were going to get off the fucking hook here, and I already know a couple, like I have some that I feel like she's going to tell us, but I know she's going to surprise us. What is the craziest celebrity story that you have?
Okay. This is the perfect example of I want to tell the not so true version of this story, but I can't do that to you guys. So I'm going to I'm going to put the true nugget in here that I've been leaving out, and a lot of my friends listening to this are going to be hearing this for the first time. And I'm so sorry that I let you down.
Oh, no.
So, I was a child of Warped Tour.
Yes, I thought this was going to be it. Yes.
Rather, I was a child of the emo movement. Not so interested in Warped Tour. It's the day of Warped Tour. And my friends are trying to convince me to go. It's the day before our birthday. And I don't want to go because it's the day before our birthday. So I'd rather, I don't know, hang out and celebrate my birthday. But I'm obsessed with the All American Rejects at the time. I am still obsessed with the All American Rejects. Tyson Ritter specifically. And they tell me that the All American Rejects are headlining. And I'm like, do you guys think I could get Tyson Ritter to make out with me? And they were like, yeah, sure, if it gets you in the car. Let's go. So we go to Warped Tour. The whole car ride, it's 3 hours probably. I'm talking about how I'm going to make this happen. And everybody doubts me, of course. Should they? No. The universe reacts to us. So we get out of the car, and I'm like, I am not even going to waste my time going to see these other bands playing. I'm going to go post up at the All American Rejects merch tent.
She's on a mission.
I'm on a mission. So I go, make friends with the merch guy. He lets me sit down with him and start selling merch, which at the time I thought was a huge privilege, and now I see is just unpaid labor.
It's like, yeah, honey, can you go give me a snack too?
And I'm like, who, me?
Rub my back for me, please.
No way. So I'm telling him about my mission to make out with Tyson Ritter, and I'm telling him that tomorrow's my birthday. And he says, oh, I can probably, make that happen. So he's like, they're actually going to come and do a meet and greet at the tent at 3. No one knows about it. We're going to send out a tweet or a text right before it happens. So 3 o'clock rolls around, and he tells me Tyson's coming. He's on his walkie. And he's like, okay, you go stand in front of that don't hate on Haiti sign. It was right when all of the earthquakes, all of the natural disasters had happened in Haiti. So it's all of the concert venue. So he tells me to go stand in front of the sign. Tyson Ritter walks up in all of his glory. People are starting to line up because it's been sent out via text or tweet or whatever. And he comes up and he says, Tyson, it's this girl's birthday tomorrow. She really wants you to give her a kiss. And he looked at me and said, you? And I said, indeed. And he said, I'll give you the best fucking kiss you've ever had. And wiped off his face that was soaked in sweat.
Hot.
And then he said, which is the hidden part of the story, but first you have to pay me $40. To contribute to Don't Hate on Haiti.
It's for a good cause.
It was for a good cause. I gave him $40. I swear I probably
Did you hand him 220s? He stuffed them in his bra or what?
I mean, this was definitely before the time of Venmo or anything. So I had to have probably turned around and been to my friends like, give me cash. I don't know. And then he did make out with me in front of everyone. There's a great picture. We'll put it up on our socials. And then I proceeded to get my toenails ripped off during that concert. But that was one of my crazier experiences with a celebrity.
You basically married Tyson Ritter.
And I paid for it.
Well, I am sorry, but I have been blowing your cover for years. I have told that story.
I just
with the donation bit.
Yeah,
baked in.
It's okay. It's okay. Keep me honest. I have been saying that more frequently as I've gotten older, but now it's out there for the world to know. I wonder if he remembers me. Hey, Tyson.
At least the universe reacts to us. They have 3 examples of it. Boom.
At least it was for, charity. A little break on your taxes.
So I'm sure I wrote it off that year. I feel good about it. Okay. Well, as we told you, we talked to Kathleen last week. This week, we are talking to Julianne and Kendall's mom, Tina. Another really raw interview. Content warning before the interview. We do discuss SA in this episode. We do refer to it by the R word. In case that's a problem for anyone, you're going to want to rewind or fast forward through the first
30 minutes.
30 minutes of that interview. But Tina showed up like an absolute boss today. She is still absolutely beautiful. Everyone go comment on our TikTok how amazing her hair looks because she's going to be all up in them. But yeah, she walked us through a very traumatic sexual assault that happened in her early life that, really influenced the decision to adopt and her own lived experience. What do you guys want people to know before listening?
She is so brave. She has been like that in our entire life. We were prepping her for this interview, and I said, obviously I'm going to ask her whether or not she's comfortable talking about any of these things. Because she's been through it. She's been through some shit. And she said, I've always been open about it. Why would I not be now? So just really proud of her. I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her a little bit.
And yeah, I just, it was brutal. But it's, one of those things that really needs to be shared and talked about. And I'm just so proud of her and the grace, that she showed and her bravery for being able to come on here with us because it is so important to the story. And, we just love her so much. And I just can't believe the person that she is with what she's had to go through. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We talk about it in the episode, but Tina's she took up a little bit of a parental role for me when I really needed it. And I have always told her if I am ever to have children, they would call her grandma too. So I am very pleased to introduce you all to Miss Tina.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Tina.
Hi.
You can see all of us, right? Kenny, Jules, Rick.
I can.
And you're looking beautiful. How do you feel?
Thank you. A little nervous, mostly excited.
Good. We're so excited to be talking to you. So I think just to start out, tell us who you are. Tell us name, whatever you want, and we'll get going.
Well, my name is Tina, and I'm one of your mamas.
Yes. And do you have a little friend over there with you? Are you alone for this interview?
Never. I have Buddy Buxton with me. Can you see him? He's right here.
Hi, buddy.
COVID puppy. Hi, buddy. Okay, so Mom, today I think we just want to take you, basically want to hear a little bit about you, your story from, childhood all the way up until we'll talk about how you met Dad, kind of your move to Colorado, meeting Dad,
Okay.
Marriage, and then ultimately up through the adoption process.
Okay.
So I guess we'll start. Just tell us where you're from and kind of how you grew up and a little bit about your parents.
Let's see. I was born in Washington State and lived there until I was 16 years old. Loved it. Thought it was the best place in the world until my dad informed us that he accepted a position of deanship at the University of Colorado in Colorado. So at 16, as you can imagine, when it's all about me, we moved to Colorado and I wasn't very happy about it.
And tell us a little bit, so growing up in Washington, tell us a little bit about I know you just mentioned your dad. Tell us a little bit about your parents and your family dynamic.
I think I can see y'all better this way, so I got to wear my glasses. Let's see. So I was the middle kid, and I was fully aware. I mean, my childhood was wonderful, but if there were ever any issues or any rifts or any fights, I don't know why I always took it upon like it was my fault or something. Like I'm the middle kid, I'm the problem child or whatever. And I was always competing with my older sister, who's 20 months older than me. And my birthday would be in November, and I thought I was going to catch up with her, but then her birthday was in March, and then she'd be another year older than me. So I was always competing with her. And then between the two of us, we kind of gave my brother Jack, my younger brother, like we kind of ganged up on him a little bit. God bless him. But so I think just a pretty typical, I don't know, family. But like I said, whenever my folks would have issues or I'd hear them arguing or whatever, I'd think, oh my God, they're going to get a divorce and it's going to be my fault. Anywho, so
it sounds like you were an anxious kid.
yes.
Did you know to call it that at the time?
No, I don't think I knew my role because my brother was the youngest, my sister was the oldest, and I'm kind of in the middle thinking, where do I fit in?
Yeah, what were you like as a kid?
Well, I think I was, I don't know. I think I was pretty fun and I had a lot of good friends.
My mom told us a story once about, she was a son. They grew up on the lake. They grew up in the water.
Yeah.
I think you were water skiing from a really young age. And I remember you telling us about, just typical. She was doing the sun in her hair and had her foil, like tin foil thing out in front of you to suntan.
We did.
What about when you had to go, when you really wanted to have that sexy, raspy voice? What was that? How did you try to accomplish that?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you remember that. My best friend Sandy and I got our hair really wet, and it was like raining outside, almost sleeting, and we decided to sit out on the front porch like freezing because we wanted to get our voices. We wanted to get a cold or something, so our voices were really raspy. That's back in junior high when we used to wear like purple mascara and green mascara, and we were cheerleaders. And anyway.
So kind of fair to call you like a girly girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And I think
But I was also a little bit of a wild Indian too.
Well, they are not mutually exclusive. Were you a little bit wild even before you moved to Colorado?
Oh yeah. We used to jump off the bridge like between Bellevue and Mercer Island. There's like a bridge that goes over that you're supposed to drive on, but we would jump off of them as soon as we made sure that there were no boats going underneath and everything. And that was, I think, maybe a little badge of courage. So things that my sister would never do.
Yes, Auntie Karn is a little bit more conservative. Obviously, Uncle Jack was also a wild Indian.
Yeah, he was a catwash. Yeah,
it was a little bit of a gradient, which I'm sure your parents just loved.
Uh-huh.
Tell us a little bit, you did have a kind of, and Kendall and I relate to this, sort of a picture perfect childhood as far as being outside and being a tight-knit family and doing things with your family and all that. But
oh my gosh, we snow skied, we water skied, family was, even though maybe we were, again, we all know on the outside is one picture, and then when you look on the inside, it's a different. But anyway, I look back on my childhood, and it was so fun. And my dad went to great lengths to make sure we had wonderful family vacations and everything. And I know it was really difficult for him to make the decision to move to Colorado, mostly because I was such a pill. But
he didn't want to upset his kids. Did you? Because I know you guys went through a lot too as a family. Can you tell us anything about maybe times that weren't so picture perfect?
Well, and I gotta choose my mom, and you could edit this any way you want. But anyway, my mom struggled with alcohol as a way to kind of deal with her issues and insecurities and everything. And so there was a lot of that going on growing up. I mean, a lot of my mom staying up later, drinking until like she went to bed so that she felt like, I don't know, maybe to kind of numb things. And I always felt badly for my dad that was the case. And so then when my dad, made the decision to move to Colorado, it was I think it was just kind of a last ditch effort to try to, I don't know, it was for him, but also maybe for the family, because not long after that, things kind of fell apart.
Yeah. So alcohol played a part in your childhood, and I know that you guys also lost family members because of not your family's alcohol consumption, but tell us about that if you can.
So early, like maybe when I was 10 years old, 8 years old, maybe, my dad's only brother, Uncle Bill, and his wife Harriet and their daughter Marilee, one Sunday afternoon they were killed in a car accident, and it was a brutal accident. It was like there were 4 drunk teenagers that collided with my family, and all 7 people were killed. By the grace of God, we had just seen my family member, like my Uncle Bill and Aunt Harriet and Marilee, the weekend before this happened. They had come out to visit us. They lived in Eastern Washington, and we lived in Bellevue, and they'd been out for a family visit. And so it was really cool that we had that experience together. But then the very next weekend, they were all killed. That was the first time I saw my dad cry.
Yeah, that's unimaginable that you had to go through that. And thank you for telling us, and I'm so sorry. But just goes to prove, and I think you sort of mentioned it earlier, beautiful, people can never tell when they were looking at the family. I'm sure it looked just picture perfect, but there was definitely some stuff that you went through.
It's
early.
It's like social media today. You only put out the good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So
Tina, real quick,
go ahead.
Can you move your iPad a little bit closer? Are you guys getting that tapping?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait. Like move it closer to me?
Yeah, or is it just sitting on a table?
Yeah. Do you need it like on a...
That's nice. Is that okay?
Is that better?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that comfortable for you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So...
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to cry.
I think you're going to be doing some more crying.
We were all crying. Our interview with Kathleen, we're expecting that, and really appreciate you being open.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you had a beautiful childhood. Your parents were having a little bit of a divide, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And you were having the time of your life in Washington, and then they dropped a bomb on you.
Yeah.
And said you were moving to Colorado. Tell us about how you felt about that, and then the move, and where you moved to, how you sort of acclimated.
Well, I remember exactly where I was when I found out that we were moving. I was in Sun Valley, Idaho, on a ski trip, and I still can't believe my folks let me go, like, unchaperoned, but it was super fun. And I thought I was in love with like the love of my life, Mike Olson. Should I even say his whole name? Anyway, so I thought, oh my God, I'm leaving Mike and moving to Colorado. And sure enough. So we moved. That was the spring of 1975. And we moved that summer of 75 to Colorado. And I remember coming from Seattle, which is like the Emerald City. And the reason why it's called the Emerald City is it's so green, 300 days of rain, but beautiful. Then moving to Colorado, and it was so brown. Everything was so brown. And I was just an absolute pill about it. I was just a stinker and so negative. So I wasn't really that fun to be around. My sister, I was jealous of Karen because she got to stay in Washington. She was going to the University of Washington, so she got to stay behind. I had pleaded with my parents to please let me stay with my best friend Sandy to finish out my junior and senior year, and they said, "No, you're not going to do that." And so yeah, there I was. I went from a high school of 500 to a high school of almost 5,000, Cherry Creek High School.
And you ended up doing just very terribly socially at Cherry Creek, right? Like just so outcast.
Well, once I adjusted my attitude a little bit, and then I tried out for cheerleader, and then my brother said he recruited the whole ninth grade to vote for me for homecoming queen. So yeah, I did adjust. I guess.
He pulled a Rob from Never Been Kissed.
Yeah, I did.
So you moved to Colorado. Can you imagine if there was a new girl at your high school that came there as a junior?
Yeah.
And she came in and was the new girl in a school of 5,000. And Cherry Creek is like a prestigious, it's kind of a little snobby.
Yes. I didn't know that, but yeah.
And is captain of the cheerleading squad and homecoming queen. Amazing. I'm like, hell yes, Mom. That is so cool.
I was all in.
And where you and Uncle Jack, you were now kind of a duo. Did you guys get closer during that time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were in it. We were like, what are we doing?
That sounds like fun. Did Karen feel any sort of, did she feel left out or separated from you guys, or was she just wild?
No, not at all.
Karen's wild.
No, she's like, see ya.
Karen with her wild oats doing crocheting in the dorm room.
Such a crazy girl. Okay, so you're acclimating well to high school.
Finally.
Your outlook had changed a little bit. And I know that's, kind of what takes us. So when we're talking about this story, a lot of it has to do with how did we get here? Yeah. And how did we get to the point where the adoption process was even a factor and things like that. And I think that what happened next may have had, and you can tell us about it, but I think your experiences from this point forward had a big effect on your future and ability to have children, things like that, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, I think what you're referring to is that something that I kind of skipped over, maybe.
Yeah.
That happened shortly after I moved here. Right? Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. We moved, like I said, in June, maybe, of 1975. And I was that girl that was, I was still a virgin. I was going to save myself for marriage, yada, yada, yada. Because that was my, I wanted to grow up, get married, and have a family. And that's just, anyway. But, so that summer, it was August of 1975, I went to, there's a beautiful place, as you know, Red Rocks in Colorado, and my sister and I were going with a friend to the America concert up at Red Rocks, and somehow, we just didn't know all the logistics of, and this was way before cell phones or texting or anything, but we got separated from our friend Janet, was her name, and she was going to get the tickets and then meet my sister and I somewhere along the way between the parking lot and the amphitheater. And one thing led to another, that we all got kind of separated. And all of a sudden I found myself, we were kind of following people in. There were people going into the amphitheater. There was a police officer within eyesight and everything, but I found myself following these men or guys, and I found myself at knife point. One of the guys kind of just pulled me aside, but he had a knife at my neck. And of course, I was too afraid to say or do anything. And he kind of took me down this riverbank kind of area, and it was still daylight. I mean, it was August. It was probably 5 or 6 o'clock at night and everything. But what scared me the most was, besides the knife, of course, is just that very week in the newspaper. And keep in mind that I just moved from Seattle, and Ted Bundy was really, I mean, there was just an article in the newspaper showing all the pictures of his victims in Seattle and in Idaho, and that he'd worked his way into like the Aspen area. And so immediately I thought, oh, this is Ted Bundy.
And a lot of his, when you're talking about the pictures of his victims in the papers, they all looked
long hair. I mean, so many similarities. I mean, I was those girls, that. And so, like I said, he had a knife at my neck, and he kept saying, "If you cry, I'll cut your pretty face." And he moved the knife from my face to my nipple to my side, and he said, "If you don't be quiet, I'll put it right through you." So I thought that I thought I was gonna be killed.
You can take a second, Mama. I'm so brave. Thank you.
No, it's hard. It's hard to hear.
Yeah, it's really hard to hear. Take a second. Give Buddy a big old hug.
It was like,
Love you.
I love you too, so many years ago, but yet it feels like it was just yesterday.
Take as much time as you need.
You hear about when you're close to death that your life passes in front of you, and I can totally relate to that, because that was happening to me, and I was praying, I think, the whole time. But somehow,
It's okay. Take a second, Mama.
Somehow, well, again, by the grace of God, I had the strength to get through that. And he said, "Well, I guess we couldn't go into the concert now and have a good time." And I said, "I just want to get as far away from you as possible." And
so I don't think I knew this part of the story. So he raped you.
Yeah.
And then...
Do I need to tell all that? Because
No.
It was...
I'm just saying, so, and then he asked you if he wanted to go into the concert with him.
Yeah.
Watch it with him. Wow.
Yeah, I guess we couldn't go in.
Disgusting.
Well, yeah.
So what did you do when you were free?
I had, during the rape, he had, because I was crying, he had bit my lips together to, really, bit them hard so that I wouldn't cry and keep quiet. And so I had these swollen lips. I had, gravel everywhere. And I just knew I needed to find my sister. You know how it is. You got to find your sister. And so I did. And she took one look at me and she said, "We got to go to the police." She just took my hand, and I was so embarrassed. I was so humiliated. I said, no, I don't want to. Because you feel like you've got this neon sign on your head, and on your face. And I felt like a slut. I felt like I had brought it on myself. And so, anyway, Karen, she took me to the closest
officer that we could find. And this happened in a Jefferson County park, or it happened in Jefferson County, but it was still a um, Denver park, I guess. So the Denver police had to come up and take care of it. So that took a while for those jurisdictions to work that out.
So while you were waiting for them to figure out who was in charge of what, are you still at Red Rocks and just kind of pulled aside somewhere?
Yeah, but then they took us down to Morrison, which is the town that's really close by Red Rocks. And they had found him because we could, I totally described what he looked like. He had a jeans jacket vest on with a Triumph sticker on the back. He had one pierced ear. I mean, I had all these details about him because you don't forget those details, when this is happening. And but the knife. We also had observed them trying to get into the park illegally. They were driving in like in this pickup truck, and we kind of laughed and said, "What are those guys doing?" So the police officers had surrounded that vehicle, and he sure enough had gone back to the vehicle. He'd pitched the knife, but they got him there, and then they brought him to Morrison so that I could. And he was in a police car, so I could identify. Yes, he's the one. That raped me. I remember them pulling his long hair back and shining the flashlight on his ear, and he had taken out the earring, but obviously it still showed that he had. I mean,
did you feel, because I personally, never having sexually assaulted someone, wouldn't think of those things to do that he did? I mean, maybe pitch the knife, but certainly not take the earring out. Did you get the feeling that he had done this before?
Oh, he absolutely had. He was a repeat offender in Jefferson County.
So tell us about, because obviously you're, first of all, we need to tell you how brave it is. There are, I mean, still to this day, it's a huge, huge, huge problem with women being sexually assaulted and not reporting because it is so scary.
Yeah.
And there is such a huge chance that it doesn't go anywhere, and they end up being re-traumatized and re-victimized over and over again without any kind of silver lining.
Yeah.
Super brave for you to come forward and actually report. And I know you've told us the story before about your parents and kind of telling them and how they found out, and what was that like?
Well, of course they took us to, but my sister and I down to the police department in Golden, and I had to like give up all my clothing because that was all evidence and everything. So I'm in like Orange is the New Black or something, going to Denver Health to go to the emergency room to have a rape kit done and everything. I mean, it's so humiliating. But they had called my folks to let them know, and my dad, he was already asleep, but my mom said he just woke up holding his heart, you can imagine one of your children has been violated like that. But anyway, they were there to meet us at the emergency room. They were just so wonderful throughout it all.
Yeah. Can you tell us about how it went, like court proceedings? Because I know you said, and that's what Ricky, I think, was kind of getting at, is that this was a huge victory. That was the wrong word, but you were brave enough to do what I think other people had not. Can you tell us a little bit about what that process was moving forward past that point?
Well, like I said, I was 16 at the time, going into a new high school. Obviously, Jefferson County said nothing will be in the paper or anything, because I thought, here I'm going into a new school and everybody's going to know. Well, of course, that didn't happen. But come to find out, so I had the Jefferson County District Attorney was representing me, and they were really eager to get this guy because he was a repeat offender. But apparently, the other, and I never want to use the word victim, but the girl that this happened to before, she got up to a certain point and backed out. And I thought, well, if I can keep this from happening to anybody else, then he didn't kill me. He raped me, but he didn't kill me. So I'm gonna get this done. And so it took from when I was 16, and I think by the time all the proceedings were done, I was 18. So you got to leave that. I had to leave that wound open, but I was determined to not let this happen again. And like I said, I had the Jefferson County on my side. They wanted him. He was in jail from the night that I identified him. So
he did not get out on bond.
No.
Wow. Damn.
No.
Not common.
No, especially because they wanted him. They were. I think they set bail so high. I don't know what the amount was, but
so you had to testify against him in court and all that.
Oh yeah, and you should have seen how. It's interesting how they dress and how he was dressed. Like, yeah,
a boy or something.
I wasn't afraid, but they went back. His attorneys went back into my records way back in Bellevue, and they knew that I was on the pill from early on because I had issues with my cycle, even though I was a virgin. But they tried to make it sound like, well, she was on the pill, she was promiscuous, she asked for it. It's just unbelievable what they come up with. But
it's so brave.
Yeah.
Thank you for opening up about that, Mom. I know that's so hard and was such a huge integral part of. I can't believe that happened 2 months after Colorado.
Yeah.
Just you barely had a fire lit under your ass to enjoy the rest of your youth and your time in high school, because I don't think that very many people would have gone on to be a social butterfly or I think a lot of people would have been a recluse from there on out. So that's
I just decided that it's not going to define me. That is not who I am. Although, as you all know, it did make me feel like damaged goods. It did make me feel damaged.
Yeah.
A couple things. First, you sent the bastard away, right?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
What was his sentencing? How long did he?
Well, honey, that's a good question. We couldn't get assault with a deadly weapon because they could never find the knife that he used. I want to say it was like 30 years that he got.
What's his name?
J.D. Parsons. Not that I remember, but yeah, that was.
And then also, I just wanted to say, your feelings are valid, but you keep saying that you were so embarrassed and everything, and that you felt like damaged goods. And I think that's a major commentary on how women are raised in our country and everywhere, really. But you don't have anything to be embarrassed about, and this is all on him, and it's on anybody who decides to do this to somebody. So
yeah.
With you being the woman that you are today and having raised your daughters, if you could, would you be able to comfortably go back and tell that 16-year-old girl that it wasn't her fault?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Good.
We love you, Mom.
Love you too.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I know that's so hard. So you're a junior. You have some big decisions ahead of you.
Yes.
You're homecoming royalty. You are captain of the cheerleading squad.
Yes.
And then obviously that I think junior year is when people start to really think about after high school. Tell us about that.
Well, naturally, since I'd wanted to live with my best friend Sandy in Washington, I applied to University of Washington. Mm-hmm. And then I did apply to University of Colorado Boulder. And I was accepted to both schools. And my dad said, well, I'll tell you what, I will pay all the in-state tuition and then you can make up the difference. And I said, Go Buffs.
And
That's how I ended up in Boulder.
And he was Grandpa Bud, was he teaching at Boulder at that time?
Well, he was teaching University of Colorado Health Sciences, which was in Denver, which is now Anschutz, but it was down in Denver. Yeah.
And I don't think we said this before. Grandpa Bud was like a kick-ass dentist.
Yeah, he was associate dean he had his own private practice. He was a pedodontist, a children's dentist, but he loved teaching more than private practice, where you make more money, but he loved teaching. And so he taught at University of Washington, University of Oregon, and University of Colorado.
Quite the pedigree. And at this time, so you decided to go to Boulder.
Yes.
Your hand wasn't forced at all. And at this time, were your parents still together?
Hanging on by a thread, come to find out. Because the first couple months of my freshman year, I was in the dorms, Williams Village, which then got Willieville, and then it became Willville, but Williams Village. I remember getting the call. That's when we had actually phones on the wall in your room, way before cell phones, from my dad saying that, my mom had decided that the grass was greener or whatever. And he was really, he was so devastated. And I remember him coming up, and I felt like, because he was crying and I was crying, and I felt like that was the day that I went from being a daughter to being his peer, because I was comforting him about that. And so that's when my folks were splitting up, was like when I was 18, my freshman year. And actually, that's one of the reasons. I know we haven't even introduced Kenny into the story, but Kenny would walk and talk with me about my parents and the split and everything. And
yeah, let's get to that. And that's definitely, we want to hear all about that. I just want to ask one more question. So you're a freshman. It seems like they almost reached the goal that they were going for, but does that mean that Uncle Jack was still at home?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
How did...
Little troublemaker, a little bit.
I know. And I don't know, because we won't talk too much about it, but Uncle Jack was a little bit of a troublemaker. Do you feel like that had anything to do with that? Was he pissed that he was the kid that was still at home when your parents decided that they were going to separate?
Oh yeah, but the issues for him started way before that. And I think, him being the only boy and being the youngest, and I think my sister and I, sadly, I guess we kind of ganged up on him. There were just a lot of issues going on that he was acting out about. But then certainly when my folks split up, that was not necessarily the last straw, but then yeah.
And he was just a hyper kid.
Oh, well, he still is.
He's still a hyper kid now.
He didn't quite know what to do with all that energy.
Yeah. So you're at college, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably the time when you're rushing a sorority.
Yes, I was.
Greek life was a huge part of your life. So tell us a little bit about that. And then we want to know, because obviously you just have, sorry, Boris, can you hear Boris? He's trying to get under the door. Look at his paws. Unbelievable. So you're rushing Greek life, which ended up as still a big part. I wouldn't say it's a big part of your life, but it has affected your relationships. Crazy.
100%. Yeah.
So tell us kind of about that social circle, and then tell us about boys.
Well, yes, that was never a question for me. I was always going to rush. That's what my parents did. They Greek life had been important to them, but and that's where I met some of my very best friends, like Kathleen McDonald. And I can remember we would run from house to house, and I always had my close-up toothpaste with me. Just 1 second. I should have brought this for a prop. But So I always had this close-up toothpaste. Can you see it?
Oh my gosh, yes, you still use that?
I know. I've got 3 boxes. Yep. Anyway, so we would we'd run from house to house and I'd swish out with close-up and then spit it out in the bushes or something before we went in. Anywho, yeah, and so that's when I pledged Kappa Kappa Gamma. And
Can we see the? Throw it up.
Pardon me?
Do you have like
How
a
do you
sign?
do it?
Any signs? Oh, there's a secret handshake, but I can't show you.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't show us.
She'd have to kill us.
Yeah.
She'd have to kill us.
Yeah.
So obviously Greek life it's a built-in social circle, which is amazing. You did,
Yeah.
And I'm sure you met some frat boys.
Well, I did. And come to find out, because Kenny was in my same dorm. I was in the dorm as a freshman. He was in the dorms as a sophomore and had not gone through Rush. But also a very good friend, David Garlick, also known as Cheese Boy, was also in the dorm, and they were going through Rush at the same time and everything. And they pledged Phi Delta Theta, which ended up being our favorite house of all. Yeah. And some of my best friends to this very day.
Yeah. How did Dad catch your eye?
Oh my gosh. So we rode buses from the dorms to campus, and your dad was very preppy. He had his Ray-Bans on and his thick dark hair and his hazel eyes and those lashes, and he had a green, like a forest green and white striped sweater on, khakis, and topsiders. He was so preppy, and he got on the bus, and I go, I am gonna get to. I mean, he caught my eye immediately. So I think I was the one, kind of like Kathleen. Sidling up to him at the bar or whatever. But I remember going to our cafeteria, sitting next to Kenny, and I took his Diet Coke, whatever drink he was drinking, right off of his tray, and I just started. Yeah.
What a move.
I think I kind of pursued him.
I feel like you might have passed that trait on to your.
This is a family of a whole family of women relentlessly pursuing men.
We were saying, just go right in. We just
get him in your laser, which I love. I do. I think that we're coming around as a society, but that has, there's such this romantic idea of boys chasing girls, and he has to be the one to pursue you, and he has to be the one to you absolutely don't ask for his phone number. What are you thinking? And wait at least a week before you text him back or whatever it is. But you just said, fuck that.
I'm too impatient. I just, see it like it, go for it.
See it like it. Okay. Did you or did you not just kind of continue that trend of just maybe happening to just be where you knew that he might be?
Oh, you do remember this. Oh, yeah. I knew what his schedule was on campus, so I would just miraculously appear like right by the Spanish, whatever, like wherever he happened to be.
I'll find you here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys got together, not love at first sight, but pretty damn close. And you and Dad dated. I think that this is another thing. You guys dated for a long time, and it was not always, this was not like a get together, get married in 2 years. Babies.
We very much had a I love you but I hate you kind of we were 2 Scorpios that
that'll do it.
We
did you know that?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Tina, I'm a Scorpio. We're all Scorpio rising. Yeah. So
mommy and daddy are both Scorpio babies. Okay.
We are, and we really had an I love you but I hate you. So it was very passionate. We broke up and got together a lot. I think people in Kenny's fraternity, I think everybody was kind of tired of us breaking up and getting back together again. But he was the one for me. I mean, he was. I just knew that.
It was inevitable. And so you and Dad broke up, got back together, and this lasted for 8 years.
8 years. 8 years. Yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the time that stuck? Like what changed?
Well, I think we had been broken up for a solid year. So it had to be like 1980 or something that it was definitely the end. And I was so distraught. And so my mom almost took me to the emergency room because I was so hysterical about it, that this really was the end. But got through that year. And then Kenny said that he'd always had this dream about like us, if we were to get married, and he would wake up like in a cold sweat, like, oh my God, we can't do it. But apparently he woke up one day and it was like, I got to do this. This is who I want to marry. And so he came back and said, I really do want to get back together. And I said, at that point, I said, well, you got to talk to my mom and you got to talk to my dad, because they'd seen me at my worst. And so he did. And so then he asked me to marry him. It was September of 1980. Well, I gave the wrong dates. He asked me in September of 84. And we got married in February of 85. So 6 months after that.
And did it seem like when he came back and you guys got together and he had to talk to your parents, did it seem very intentional from that point forward? Like, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Real quick, before we get to the marriage part, I need to hear a story.
Okay.
Wherein Dad ended up in a closet.
Oh. Oh, honey. Okay, well, so that goes back to my freshman year. So, I think I told you early on about my high school boyfriend, Mike Olson. So we'd stayed in touch and everything, but of course I lived in Colorado. He was in Washington State, and he had come out to visit winter of my freshman year, and he was staying. And by that time, your dad and I were already dating, and I didn't quite know what to do with two boys at once. And Mike was staying right next door because I was on a co-ed floor, and so the guys right next door had room for Mike. And your dad and I had gone night skiing with the Fidels. We'd gone up skiing, had a blast and everything. And then, of course, I brought Kenny home, your dad home, to my dorm room because my roommate wasn't going to be there. And so, oh my God. And so, and at the time, and I don't know why I bring this up, but your dad, you know those long underwear that are like a one, like jumpsuit, like that's what your dad was wearing. And so we were all cozied in, and I don't know, I'm not going to tell you what happened because I don't really remember, but the next morning, there's this knock at the door, and I went, oh, shit. And, because I've got Kenny in here, and I don't know who's at the door. And so I put Kenny in my closet and closed the door, and I opened the door, and sure enough, it was Mike, my boyfriend Mike from Washington. And I said, I'm just going to take a quick shower because I didn't know what else to do. So I ran across hall, took a shower, came back in my yellow fuzzy bathrobe. I remember it was yellow. And I walk in, and Kenny's sitting on one twin bed with his long underwear on, and Mike's sitting on the other. And I said, so I see you two have met. Oh my God. They were both so pissed at me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of baller move, to be honest.
Did Ken come out of the closet and was like, I'm not doing this?
Like, fuck this shit.
Because Mike had opened up the closet while I was gone. and met. That's how they met. He opened up, I don't know, he's opening up doors or whatever, and there's Kenny in the closet in his long underwear.
Well, it did not end up in a physical altercation, which I think says a lot about both men.
Yes, they're yeah.
So now we have gotten, I don't want, this is so, this is fun and funny. I don't want to take this back to anything sad, but I was just thinking about this, and I think it speaks a lot to something that we'll hear about Dad soon. But I know that after what you had gone through in high school and the way that you felt,
Yes,
I feel like you've talked a lot about how Dad made you feel.
Oh yeah, because and I can tell you this: your dad was my like I said, I was the girl that was going to be a virgin until she got married, and I remember talking to my mom about that. Like I didn't feel like I was a virgin anymore, and she said, "Oh, honey, you absolutely are." But obviously, your dad was my first love, and I remember talking to him about it, and he just never ever. I mean, he was incredible about it, and just very tender. I mean, didn't treat me like I kind of felt in terms of, what I'd been through.
Yeah. So he's the love of your life. He comes back. He begs for forgiveness from your mom and dad. You guys are going to get married. Did he propose to you on a onesie?
Oh, honey, I know. The least romantic thing. So I happened to work very close by. I worked at the Regency Hotel, which was very close to Standard Fence at the time. And he said, well, you want to meet for lunch? Because we did that often. And so I went to Standard Fence first, and he had this gentleman there. Gosh, why can't I think of his name? Who was the diamond guy? Eddie. Eddie was his name. And he had, like, on a little black piece of velvet, he had, well, it was this stone right there, just on a piece of velvet, and took it out. And so we walked out into the backyard of the lumber yard just so we could see it in the sun. And I don't know that he ever really asked me, like, will you marry me or anything? And then we went to Wendy's for lunch on Federal, and I guess that's how we got married. So, how's that for romance?
Okay.
A far cry from the what was the name of the Flagstaff house?
Oh, yeah, nothing like that. No.
So I think the Regency Bank sparks a memory for me as well. So you, and I don't know if this happened before or after you guys were married. So till you guys get married, beautiful wedding.
Yes.
Had you guys talked about having kids, I'm sure, before you got married?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we both wanted it, didn't know what lay ahead, what lied ahead, whatever. Yeah. No, we both wanted to have a family.
So you already knew that going into marriage, which is important. Glad you guys had that conversation.
Yes.
You wanted to be parents, you get married, and then tell us about kind of your first few years of marriage and did you guys start trying to have a family immediately?
Well, we knew, like, before that, right around when we were getting engaged and getting married, I actually fainted twice. Once at a bank. And then once also once at the hotel when I was working at the Regency Hotel, and I was engaged, but everybody thought I was pregnant. And so that's why I was passing out. And I said, no, I'm definitely not pregnant. Because we were trying to play the role, and, or act the part. And then I passed out at the bank. I almost made it to anyway. So again, but that was my body going through a lot of changes in terms of my hormones and everything. Everything was misfiring and so forth, but I didn't know it at the time. So as soon as we got married, then yes, we did want to start to have a family, but we weren't having any success. And so that's when we started going to see specialists. And I remember one doctor, there's something about bedside manner. And one doctor said to me after they took all my blood work and everything and my FSH, they were just off the charts and everything. And this one doc said, well, your chances of getting pregnant are like getting struck by lightning twice. And to tell that to a brand new, blushing bride, that just added insult to injury, because already I'd been through the whole rape thing, which Kenny knew about, and he was so just so precious about. And then the fact that I couldn't conceive, it really did a number on my self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And when you were, and I think it'll be super clear, but just in case it's not, I want to make sure that everyone listening knows that you were not able to have children because you were violently raped. Like, these two things are not a coincidence. This is direct causation.
Well, in my mind, I feel like it was such an ugly, awful experience that part of me I shut down. There was no way I could. It just died, that part of me.
And were they telling you that you were going through
premature menopause
at the age of 26 years old?
26, yeah.
Did they say anything about? We heard some statistical anomalies from Kathleen. Did they say anything about that? If that was common, if they had seen that before, or anything like that? Do you remember?
No, there was not. There was not a lot of. I don't think it was very common.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
it just was so foreign to me. I mean, because I can remember thinking, menopause, isn't that something that happens to old ladies? I mean, so yeah, and we went to 5 different doctors, and it was the same result, and that I didn't have any, I couldn't conceive. And so that was a big blow.
So what happens? Do you guys kind of regroup? How did you decide to move forward from that?
Well, your dad, he was so amazing the whole time, over and over again. He said, I don't care how we start a family. I just want to have a family. And at that point, he took matters into his own hands and got us, we got on the adoption list, or started with Catholic Charities in Denver. And
Mama, do you want to take a second real quick?
No, I'm okay. I'm all right. But meanwhile, always in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that there's going to be a miracle. I'm going to conceive. We even talked to your Auntie Karen about, she offered to be an egg donor. And this was in between the time that she was divorced from her first husband, Tony, and she and Steve were married at the time, but they hadn't started a family yet. And so I was really hesitant to do that, because they hadn't even, anyway. So where were we? I don't know.
So dad took matters into his own hands, got you guys on
with
Catholic Charities.
Yeah, and that was we felt like we were a little fish in a huge big pond with Catholic Charities. I don't know how long because keep in mind that your dad and I got married when we were both 26.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that you guys were brought into our life, we were 32.
Yeah, I think 33.
33. So a lot of time had passed, and anyway, so we were with Catholic Charities for a couple of years, several years, and then maybe 6 years into it, we got a call from Jim and Barb Britt about this agency known as Sybil and Ellen, that were only working with a few families that they really felt like maybe Kenny and I should meet with. Am I jumping too far ahead?
Well, no, there's one. I think that, so you guys were on the adoption list, we know, I think for 7 years, but I don't know if because we know that you did have another heartbreak, and I don't know if that was before you got with Sybil or after.
It was with Sybil and Ellen. There were a couple different situations that were brought to. There was one situation that was a little boy had already been born, and which I thought, oh great, a little boy, a son. Again, back to the boy for your dad, but the father, the birth dad, the birth mom did not want to make public the birth father's name, because I don't know if he was anyway, she wouldn't reveal who he was. And so Kenny and I thought, we can't take that on, him not knowing that he's got this child. And what if he finds out later and then he's going to come knocking at our door for his son? So as heartbreaking as it was, we had to say no to that situation. And then we had another situation, a little gal out of Grand Junction who we talked to several times on the phone. She sent us pictures of herself as a child and of the father as a child, so that we could kind of get an idea of what this baby was going to look like. And she talked to us about going to Colorado Springs to be there for the birth. And then one day we got a call from Sybil and Ellen saying that there wasn't going to be a baby. There was no baby. And we said, well, why? And what's going on? And did she change her mind? And they said, well, no. She first said that she'd decided that she'd had a miscarriage. And they said, okay, well, we need to have, records, medical records and everything. And when she went to the doctor and everything, had a miscarriage. And then she hemmed and hawed about that she couldn't provide those papers. And then she said, well, actually, I had an abortion.
Let's take a second.
Yeah.
Okay, so she said she had a miscarriage, could not provide any medical documentation to prove that, and now she's saying she's had an abortion.
Right. And so that was more devastation. But then Sybil and Ellen said, okay, well, we do need, so we can close your file, we need that documentation too. And then she finally admitted that she'd made the whole thing up. That it was just.
What the fuck? What was and I don't know if you know, but was there any kind of explanation for that, or why did she do that?
I don't really know why, but Kenny and I both, we met with Sybil and Ellen and said, you got to understand that our faith in you is really kind of like as far as the screening process or whatever, our faith in them was really shaken, you know, and they totally agreed. And they said, we will not rest. These were their words. We will not rest until we find the perfect situation for you. I mean, they were equally as devastated as we were, I think. We never pressed charges or anything like that with this little girl, but she apparently desperately needed attention or something. But that was all leading up to, that was just within months or weeks before we then met Kathleen, so.
So we'll just kind of give you the floor for this part. And why don't you just tell us what happened next?
You mean me?
Yeah. So you have gone through two of these.
Yeah.
Huge letdowns.
Yeah.
You explain to Sybil that your faith is a little bit shaken. They say, we will not rest until this happens for you. And tell us about meeting Kathleen and
that?
Well, I remember exactly where I was. I was at work in my little office in Cherry Creek, and Kenny, I don't know where he was, but somehow back in the old days, we got on the phone at the same time, and they said, would you consider twins? And I think at the same time, and I know y'all are triplets. I honor that, but they said twins, and Kenny and I, without hesitation, said yes. I mean, and
Did you
yeah.
guys, did it like simultaneously said yes? There was no, oh, let us talk about that for a second. Because you're not in the same room. You're on the phone together.
No hesitation whatsoever. No. I mean, we've been through 6.5 years. Our friends are having babies, going to baby showers. We had the nursery all set up, and we were waiting for a baby.
You guys have the nursery set up before? Well, I guess okay. Yeah, that was a dumb
We
question.
did, because Kathleen and Lee came. They saw our house. We had it all set up. We had one crib, not knowing that there were going to be. Yeah.
Tina, can we break for 1 second?
Yeah.
It's not actually charging anything.
Is it plugged in?
I'm turning my camera off so I can be off camera for a second.
We're having laptop charging issues, so we got to work that out.
What is it?
It's plugged in.
Is the power strip on?
Yeah, the power strip's on.
It's that guy.
So you and I are both about to die?
Yeah, I mean, mine's not.
So would now be a good time for me to go potty?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm at 23%. Does the Mevo need to be plugged into my computer? I hesitate to do anything with that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we think it's just the box?
It's that white one.
Wait. Okay.
Yours is
Charging mine now.
Okay.
So
Now what's it doing?
no. Oh, for the love of fucking God.
Do you try it? Can you just plug it into like
Can
the
you plug it in the
wall
wall?
or just something that's not that? Or is it? Oh, so that's your charger. What about that extension
This?
cord? Yeah. Or is it just
No.
double? Okay, the wall. Okay, unplug. Unplug this. Unplug this guy. Yeah, the top one. That's here.
Okay, that's charging now.
Good.
Now we got to figure out mine.
I'm at 10. Okay.
Oh my
goodness. Okay, I was distracted by that. So what has she said?
Since abortion lady,
Yeah.
that was just all for attention.
Abortion lady. I just can't get on the
They asked if
They got
would
them
be
on
okay
the
with twins.
phone separate. They were not in the same room together.
Oh no.
They got on the phone and asked them if they would be open to twins, and without even like consulting each other,
both said
they
yes.
both said yes.
Are you kidding me?
And then okay,
And so now we're gonna ask about them going to see.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, perfect. You can take it away from here, girl.
I've been talking in it.
Oh my god. Which would be the thing that. Does this need to be plugged in?
No.
What's
So, like,
the stripy thing that we unplugged?
That's just that extension cord. So we just unplugged everything out of that thing.
Okay.
So if.
Mom, this is such a learning experience. We've been learning so many new things.
I bet. I mean,
So hard to come from work and have all of your shit charged. Like, because you've been working on it.
That's our probably main takeaway right now is always have everything charged.
mine's still at 57%, so I think I'm good.
You're good to go.
Okay.
So what is the problem right now?
Kendall doesn't have a charge, sure.
I'm just
On 23%.
going to get some more ice.
Charger.
I don't have a charger. I'm on 10. I took hers.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh.
What is up with this power strip? It's not gonna.
Someone gets here tomorrow.
What did you say gets here tomorrow?
That big ass power strip that we're gonna put under,
The table.
You wanna try that? My knees. I need to start taking collagen or something. Oh.
I'm gonna plug in.
Don't take turmeric.
Okay.
Because you're charging.
I mean,
I don't need to.
You're okay?
Yeah, you stay my hand.
if your body reacts the way that mine reacted, don't take it.
Okay. I don't take it.
Maybe it just needs to sit for a second. Okay. Now I gotta pee. Now we're right back.
Oh. So Tina, you're packing because you're about to go on a journey.
Yeah, I wish I could show you guys this. If I turn it, well, yeah.
So is that what your hair is gonna look like when you're here?
Well, I'll take it off when we're not on.
No, it's so
No, it's so cute.
It's called a topper, so it's like it's my hair, and because you know,
I love it.
Oh, it's like a little halo, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
so I got I was really depressed about my hair like falling out and thinning, and so anyway, I got this topper, and I decided I hope that I wouldn't look too much unlike. I hope I look okay.
no, it's so cute.
No one would ever know
That's a
that's
great
not your
look
hair. All of it.
Okay.
That's the one
Except it's never been this thick in my whole life.
Kathleen. Her hair was Kathleen was talking about you and Dad, and she was like, they were so beautiful. They were both so
Cute.
exuberant, cute.
Tina was so cute.
Tina's hair really short.
Didn't you? I mean, it was really short. Did you love that interview with Kathleen? I did.
Yeah.
Did you? How far did you get?
Well, I had to stop because I was crying. So I probably got halfway through. I got to watch the rest of it. I don't even know how far y'all got with her.
Got into it. I just am realizing now. I've realized a few things. Nowhere in the episode where we're like crying about Kenny do we address that he has passed.
Yeah.
And we don't talk to my mom about like anything like my dad passing away or anything like that. But that's okay.
That's on purpose.
Yeah.
We gotta save some stuff for later.
I know. People are just like, why are they so upset about this awesome bit? Okay.
They'll find out. It's been such a challenge to be like, okay, you can't say too much because we need fucking 10 episodes worth of shit.
So we're not going to go through like my entire life till the
No, we're going to go up through you adopting Kendall and I and
us meeting each other and what that felt like and everything.
Okay. All right.
So
I think Ricky's going to kind of take the floor. So we ended up with.
So you had a nursery already.
Are we recording?
Yeah, we can't stop recording.
We're just noting where we're starting again. Okay.
So we'll start again at 117. Great. Okay.
Yes, we had a nursery set up.
So you had a nursery all set up, and you both agreed without any discussion whatsoever that you were okay with twins, not just okay with, excited about.
Totally.
But you had to be going in with a lot of apprehension just naturally. But this was only a few weeks later, right?
Right.
And then, so we saw the adoption papers. Did they show you like their profiles on Lee and my mom, Kathy, before you?
She was Kathy at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they did. And we went to their home first, and then they came to our house after that. Yeah.
And in reading those profiles, obviously the whole Jump family really knows how to take one on the chin, but they weren't glamorous at all. Like my dad had obviously come from a really rough background, and my mom had also come from not necessarily such a rough background, but rough circumstances. So did that give you any pause?
No, because we met them in person, and I still remember your mom, and this was before the cochlear implant thing, but Kenny would talk with his hands, and sometimes, or rest his hand or whatever, and your mom would just gently reach over and move his hand down from his face so she could read his lips. No, we were just meeting with your folks face to face. It didn't matter any of the other, history or anything.
Mm-hmm. And what were your first impressions of them when you went to their house?
Oh God, I felt like we were going through like the white glove treatment. I mean, I felt like, and I felt like we were being like paraded up on stage to see if we would pass the test. And I didn't know how. I mean, I knew she was interviewing. They were interviewing other couples, and so it was extra scary, like to see if we would pass, but it was out of our hands. It was your mom's ultimate decision. It wasn't ours.
What did she tell you about why they were making the decision they were making?
As I recall, we were aware of her hearing issue, and there was an age difference between the two of them, and that they just weren't prepared to have 3 babies, and it was such a huge sacrifice. I mean, the fact that she was, what a selfless act, to relinquish 2 babies. So,
do you know why they ended up picking you?
I don't.
You haven't gotten that far in the interview, huh?
Well, I take that back. Kathleen did tell me, and this is gonna make me cry again.
It's okay, we're crying too.
Your dad. He did not care how he had a family. He just wanted a family, and a lot of men, I think, are so hung up on they got to be the sperm donor in the whole equation. And your dad, he just wanted to be your dad, He wanted to have babies. And I don't know if that's why she chose us, but I think that's why.
It is, yeah. I think she had interviewed 2 other couples, and in both circumstances, she had asked how they felt about the children not being biologically theirs.
Yeah.
And the husbands had said, "This is not what I would much prefer to have a child that was biologically mine. I'm doing this for my wife."
It wasn't your dad at all.
Yeah. And so you guys went to go see them, and then Kathleen couldn't remember how this decision came down, basically. How soon did they say, yes, I want it to be them? And how soon did you guys say yes? And kind of all, do you remember?
It wasn't a matter of us saying yes. I mean, we were already yes before we walked into the door. I mean, we were like, that's what we wanted. But so it was up to Kathleen and Lee ultimately. I think it all happened pretty quickly. I want to say because you all came 7 weeks early, I think.
Oh, yeah.
You were born at 35 weeks, right?
Oh my God.
Maybe.
Hold on.
They got a month knocked off.
So we had from maybe the beginning of June, and then y'all came July 6th. So
the whole time we were talking to my mom, we were like, oh, so, it was pretty dramatic for someone to say yes to something that was happening in 2 months, assuming full gestation.
Right.
It was 1 month.
Well, but keep in mind that we were ready for 6.5 years. I mean, we were ready,
Okay. So you went into this interview, quote unquote, thinking, okay, we're about to have if they say yes,
we're going to have 2 babies in 2 months.
Yeah.
And then y'all like to party for the 4th of July.
Well, we didn't think you were going to get here until August. And so, yes,
So for our listeners, you grew up a water baby.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dad really grew. Did you get Dad into boating?
Me?
Yeah. Or was he always on the lake too?
Oh, did I get Dad into boating?
Yeah.
Oh, your dad did not love the water. No. I got him into it.
So you got him into boating, which is, I didn't know that until right now, that Dad didn't like the water because you can pull him off that.
He was kind of scared of the water, but he felt more comfortable like behind he'd like to drive the boat. Whereas we all like to be behind the boat, water skiing or whatever, wakeboarding.
Okay. So you have baptized Dad into the boating life. And so you guys were celebrating were you on a kind of your last hurrah before you were gonna be parents?
Yeah, we were up at the Colemans, up at their lake, and that was back in the day where there were no cell phones, no anything, and so I had just decided I should call home for messages, and there were 35 messages on our, that like the old school like tape recorder thing. Like, I can't believe it didn't run out. It was a Saturday, and about how the babies had been born. And I mean, people had already been to the hospital, like friends had already gone to Rose, and we didn't even know about this. And so then your dad and Doug Coleman were out on the lake, and Gina and I I'd heard of these, and I'm like freaking out about, oh my God, the babies have been born, and we ran out onto the dock, and your dad and Doug were out on, one of those paddle things, those like they're sitting side by side where you move the boat by paddling, whatever those are called. and Gina and I are like trying to flag him down, like, come on. And they're going, yeah. They thought we wanted to get out there on the boat with them. And finally they figured out that it was kind of, they needed to come in and that the babies were born.
Oh, I bet you Mom was hollering at the
Were you doing your whistle?
Doing your little stomp-a-doodle?
I was doing a little stomp-a-doodle and a big whistle. And Jean said, we need champagne. And she grabbed like those little Dixie cups, those little paper cups with champagne to toast. And then your dad and I jumped in the car to drive from Loveland down to Denver because we knew the babies had been born. And there was a double rainbow in the sky that day as we were driving, which to me has always been God keeping his promise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you drive down to the hospital and then
somehow we got the message that, okay, maybe it's not okay to go straight to Rose. Like maybe there were, I don't know if Kathleen wasn't ready or if Lee wasn't ready or what, but we had to drive. So that was a Saturday. And so we drove home and then we just kind of waited because we thought we're going to meet you on Sunday. And that's when we knew there were 3 little girls because we didn't know up till then anything about the sexes of the babies. And so we just went home and we waited.
How long did you wait?
We waited all of Sunday, which about made me slip my wrist because I don't know, for some reason they weren't quite ready for us, which made us panic because I thought they're going to change their minds.
And I do think that Kathleen mentioned this. She had
a very fuzzy memory of this.
She had held us, which I think she thought was not a mistake, and I think Lee had asked her if she wanted to.
He thought we should keep you, Julianne. He thought kept.
He was kind of suggesting that maybe they should keep 2 and give one away.
Keep Julianne.
Oh, hold on. Keep Julianne instead.
Yeah. And he said that after Julianne and Kendall were already my babies. He was saying, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Holy.
Do you know
What a little
why?
shitster.
Did he just feel a connection with her? Or do we know why?
Maybe, I don't know, but I was very possessive already. No, but
Okay, so was there, because my mom was kind of blurry on how this happened, and I know that they did let her hold us. But she said, I think that would be okay. And then she didn't really insinuate that it wasn't okay after.
I think she insinuated that they were having second thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So
and that was all before Kenny and I came to the hospital.
Yeah.
Any of that.
So was there a lot of tension going into the hospital or no?
No. The only tension was I changed my outfit 3 times going to because I wanted to have the right. And Kenny's like going, oh my God, we got to go to the hospital. But I wanted to have the right dress on or whatever. But that was Monday morning when we got the okay to come to the hospital.
Because I do think that Kathleen was having a rough time. And then this is when Kathleen told us about everything that you had gone through already. And she said, there is absolutely no way that we can do that to them.
Right. Yeah. She, which again, her heart,
Yeah. And she had told us, well, I guess you go ahead, because I think this gets more into the next few years, but she had told us why this was kind of a scary environment just in general, because we didn't know about these laws. And I know that there had been a lady on the news, right, that had given her babies up for adoption. Tell us about that.
You mean the one that went back on her word and went with the baby? Yeah. It's very, very scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
I can't imagine that feeling of just being kind of in limbo for so long.
Yeah.
So you went to get the girls, Julianne and Kendall. And so did you pick them up from you didn't pick them up from my parents. You picked them up from a different room? Or what was the conversation like when you got to the hospital?
By the time that we got there, you, Ricky, and your mama were on a different floor, and Julianne and Kendall were up on the in the NICU. So we went directly up there, and once we got up there, you got to wash your hands like you're going into surgery and everything. And once we got up there and were introduced, but your folks were also there, and I think that's when Lee was saying, and he has this, I think he was recording. Did I send you guys the VHS?
We have the box. We haven't opened it yet. I wanted to wait for Kendall.
Gosh, you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think in the VHS that'll be interesting for you to watch. But I think that's when he was talking about kind of questioning about it. And this is no offense, Ricky. Should we have chosen baby A, firstborn? But then I think I told you somewhere along the line that one of the first things Kathleen said to Kenny was, "I'm sorry there wasn't a boy," and which we never would have thought of. That was never an issue for us. But anyway, so that's when we met. It was in the NICU, and the nurses, bless their hearts, they're looking at the birth parents, they're looking at the adoptive parents, and they're just trying to, kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you took us home, and we had and I know that, Mom, you have been in the comments, which you're not allowed to do. And this is where people have a lot of judgments and just it's things that we obviously have to take. We have to have empathy for other people, that this is the way that they're thinking. But for us, it's just such a beautiful thing that happened on everyone's count. So and one of the things that she had spoken about was debating about selective reduction and things like that. And Kendall brought up a good point that we were not sprig and spry coming out of the room. I know that there were some health concerns. So talk to us about that coming out of the hospital.
Well, how long were you in the hospital in the first, how long did you guys have to wait to take us home?
Well, almost 2 weeks for Kendall. And I think we took Julianne home after 10 days because you've always been like spry and you were the littlest. You actually were the smallest of all three, but once, because you were 314 and once that you could suck, breathe, and hold your temperature all at the same time, that they consider that to be thriving. You were like a gerbil. I mean, you were so little. I don't eat that, but you were like itty bitty.
That's 3 pounds and 14 ounces, ladies and gentlemen. 3 pounds and 14 ounces.
That's a giant gerbil, I know, but I mean, you're so little. But you were the first to and so we took you home. You didn't even fit into like your little car seat. And of course, we went to Taco Bell drive-thru on the way home, and we got you home.
My first meal.
Your first meal.
New blood.
And we put you in the little bassinet at the foot of our bed with the baby monitor at the foot of the bed. Well, Kenny and I read it. But I didn't want to miss a peep. And then like 2 days later, I think it was like 10 days or something. 2 weeks. Kendall was ready to come home. But the reason that Kendall wasn't ready right away was because she had this Kenny called it like the cake cover or whatever over her head because she had a few little respiratory issues. And because you had to have surfactant in your lungs because your lungs weren't fully developed. And then we got to bring you home and we took you through Taco Bell drive-thru on the way home too.
Do you know the story about Kathleen's water breaking?
I heard it. Yeah.
She's like, I was supposed to be on bed rest.
I know.
I was moving everything.
I was
in the
moving
lines.
a sprinkler.
But she's like a water baby, like me. Can you believe that? Like that's where it came from.
That was hilarious. So you have your babies now. Talk to us about the difference between an open adoption and a closed adoption, and how this started and how it changed, or why.
Well, at first, when we first talking about adoption, I thought, let's just go grab the baby in a dark alley in the middle of the night. And I mean, that was like 1950s or something. And the fact that it was so open and that we got to know each other beforehand, and that Kathleen and Lee chose us. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, but going into it, I was so much more closed-minded about the whole thing, and I think that comes from my insecurity, just not knowing what an open adoption would look like. So,
So they, a few weeks after we were all born and settled, they came to your house in Loveland or Denver.
It was Denver. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how is that? That was
You
the first time we all got together afterwards.
that was a little bit scary because I was still at the point of thinking that we hadn't been through the whole legal adoption piece of it. And so I was thinking that minds were going to be changed. And that was a little unsettling for me.
Yeah, I can't imagine how
insecure. Yeah.
So does all of the official when did the official paperwork happen where these were, or did it?
I thought it was in August, like after y'all were born in July. I thought it was in August of 91. And Babette was our judge. And Kenny said, whatever you do, don't call her Babette in the proceedings. And I called her Babette. like we were on first name basis instead of saying, Your Honor. I was like, okay, Babette. And she was so darling. She was like 4 feet high and 4 feet wide. She was great.
Okay. So I think now would be best to set the stage. So we met one more time when we were 6 months old. And then I don't remember ever hearing or finding out about Julianne and Kendall. It's just something that I always knew. And you guys continued to provide my mom and dad with updates, send us Christmas cards,
Right.
and send us photos and things like that.
Right.
But when did you make the decision to not tell Julianne and Kendall? And then how did you feel because I reached out when I was like 6 or 7, I wrote you guys.
Right.
So I'd love to know kind of how you made that decision and if you were just nervous the whole time, and then how you felt when I first reached out to ask if they knew about me and if we could be in touch.
And I'm so glad you brought that up because the girls always knew that they were adopted, always from the get. And then I guess I have to put the onus on me that maybe I was so nervous. I was so nervous about what if my girls meet their birth mom and they're going to go, Mama, like they're going to reject me and go back to Kathleen. I don't know if I was nervous on my part or if I was thinking maybe the girls aren't ready for it yet. I think we were trying to do things that were age appropriate, which I know in retrospect maybe wasn't right. I think we were trying to do the best that we could at the time.
I don't think there's any right or wrong.
No.
Well,
Nobody is mad at you for this decision, Mama.
I
just want to hear how it happened.
Yeah, and that's why I think maybe it falls on my shoulders. I don't know.
Well, I don't want to talk about it to be a thing to fall on your shoulders.
Okay.
Just curious about.
I think
a constant point of conversation. Are we going to tell them? When do we tell them? And then what was it like to hear from us or me for the first time?
Oh, and I can't even remember what the first time was, but I do know one thing that was so impactful was when you had bumped into somebody at the outlet malls that thought you were Julianne.
Esther.
Yeah, that was kind of a big deal.
So because I actually don't think we talked about this. Did Kathleen have to get in touch with you and tell you that had happened?
Well, somehow we found out that it had happened.
You found out from us, though, right? You didn't find out.
No, we never knew. And to this day, I don't know. Have they come forward?
Yeah, that would have been an absolute bomb.
We haven't found out that poor child.
What now? What?
I said we have not found out that poor child. They took that to the freaking grave or whatever wherever they are. We
I don't know. I don't know who it was. I always thought maybe was it like Cheryl Hawk or somebody like a soccer friend? I don't know.
Okay, so you find out that someone has seen Ricky, mistaken her for me.
Yeah.
This is like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's getting real.
That sort of accelerated things. Yes.
Well, real quick, I have a question because I kind of thought, was there any fear that like Julianne and I would feel more like we would feel rejected because Kathleen kept a baby and gave us a boy? Was that part of the fear at all?
No, I didn't feel that. I felt really secure about our family situation, but I felt like the minute that you saw your birth mom, that you would want to be with that the genetics. I don't know. That was my insecurity and my immaturity on my part.
I don't think it's immature. I think it's a valid fear. Biology,
especially. Yeah.
I felt very protective of you. I didn't know I didn't know how you would absorb all of it, or.
And did you know at that time that they were living a bit of a rough and tumble life? And that my dad's health was getting worse.
Yeah. By then, and in fact, I've in going through all the paperwork and everything, I know that we were aware of your dad's declining health, and I think that was before Kenny got sick. But yeah, I think we were aware. Your mom was really good about staying in touch.
Mm-hmm. So then you finally make the decision to sit down and tell Julianne and Kendall. What did that
tell us
look
about
like?
that.
Before we find out from someone else.
Well, yeah, maybe the whole thing at the outlet malls kind of put it into fast forward. But well, and this came after your dad passed away.
No, he was very sick, but this was when he was still alive. Because he passed away when I was 10, so we would have been writing for a couple of years.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about you telling us about.
But they didn't know about you yet. They didn't know until it was Christmas, and I think y'all were 11.
We were 9, and then because when I want to hear about it. So when we were 9, you told us about Ricky, and then when we were 11, we met Ricky, and kind of I think the catalyst for us meeting Ricky was that Lee had passed away.
Okay,
and
so you did know about Ricky, but I don't think it was 9 to 11. I think at any rate, I don't know.
Tell us about telling us about Ricky.
So it was, and it was right after Christmas, and your dad and I just sat you down at the kitchen table, and we said, okay, we have one more gift for you, and it's not the kind that comes under the tree or in your stocking, but we wanted y'all to know that you have a sister. And you two looked at each other and were like, well, duh. We said, you have one more sister. And then we pulled out a picture. Then Daddy took Julianne over to the cowboy chair, which Kendall has. And he showed a picture of Ricky, and he said, what do you think? And Julianne said, I feel like I'm looking in the mirror. We looked at the picture of Ricky. And then he had Kendall come over, and Kendall looked at it, and she said, I'm unique. Yeah, and,
oh, God, I'm such a dork.
And we had worried so much about how y'all were going to take it, and yet you handled it so beautifully. And then it was shortly after that it had to be right around when Lee passed away, because you and your mama were moving to Missouri.
Just to clear up the timeline a little bit, we shared letters for like 2 years before we met. Those would have been like, you weren't seeing, I guess it would be different because she's not seeing the letters from the office.
But my girls didn't see them. The girls,
they were between us, me, Julianne, and Kendall.
Ricky kept all of our letters, and they're
they
dated.
are so.
so they were before we even told you about her.
No.
No, it was, so they would tell me about their birthday at the country club or going to Arizona for the summer. So it would span a couple of years that they knew about. We all knew about each other before we met.
Oh, okay.
The first letter is dated in like 99, and my dad passed away in 2001.
Okay.
So then, yes, my mom wrote you and said that my dad, it's actually crazy. Okay. My mom wrote you to tell you that my dad had taken a turn for the worse, would probably not be alive for very much longer. And Kenny wrote back on May 7th, and my dad passed away on May 9th. And then that winter, we made the decision that we were going to move to Missouri. And so then we met in February.
Because they were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do remember that, but I didn't remember the exchange of.
Oh, yeah. We had a little pen pal relationship, and holy shit.
And I sent you a bunch of those.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Well, you haven't even opened up the box yet.
I wanted to wait till this is the first time
I'll be the one embarrassed now.
Yeah. So we've been reading our letters to Ricky, and they, woof.
Wait till, yeah. So after we told you about her, then there was a lag between when y'all knew about Ricky to when we actually met. And that one of those letters that I found that I honestly didn't remember was Kenny writing to Kathleen saying that the girls weren't quite ready yet. Did you read that part?
I think we have letters. We read that one.
Which I kind of didn't remember because I thought it was just big bad me the whole time saying, no, they can't meet. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So fast forward to when we met or where.
Yeah, tell us about it.
The mall.
When we went to Twin Peaks Mall.
That's
Twin
what
Peaks.
it was.
Can you believe it? Twin Peaks Mall in like Longmont, I think. And I remember your mom had this big badass truck with like the dualies, it was like this big old truck. You guys were literally leaving, I think, the next day for Missouri. But we met, and the three of us adults let you three girls, like arm in arm, go, and you saw some movie. Do you remember what movie it was?
Yeah, Daredevil.
And you were so cute, and Kathleen and Kenny and I just chatted while y'all were at the movies, and it went way better than we could have expected. That's the thing about when we try to anticipate how you kids are going to respond, and then you responded so beautifully. I had nothing to worry about, but I didn't know that.
Okay, so that's something that Kendall and Ricky and I sort of talked about, was that this meeting was a little bit anticlimactic. Not in a negative way, just in the way that I think all of us, adults and children alike, were very, very nervous. And then when we finally did meet each other for the first time, it felt very natural.
It did. You guys were comparing your hand size, like your palms to each other, and your feet, and it was way more comfortable and, like you said, natural than we anticipated. Yeah.
So that was our first meeting, and then Ricky and Kathleen moved to Missouri, and we maintained a writing relationship, and I think at that point on the phone, things like that. And then you and Dad, we started to have Ricky to our house.
Yes. Yeah.
And tell us about kind of getting to know Ricky in that way, and how that all felt once we were finally kind of able to break that barrier and be a part of each other's lives.
I think it felt very, very natural. And the two of you, not to exclude Kendall, but the two of you, because you look so much alike, you loved it when you would come in, like one of you would walk into the room and people would think, oh, that's Julianne, but it was really Ricky. And you loved doing that whole sort of trick on
our little shtick.
We love the bit. Dina, I'm curious because I was coming from quite a different circumstance and lifestyle. And I remember a couple of times, like Kendall and Jules would think I was being lazy because we were taking out the boat and I wasn't helping, but it was actually because I'd never fucking seen a boat before.
You didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do. Yeah.
So I'm curious as to whether it was like training a little gremlin, or what did that difference feel like in between the upbringing?
No, I just thought that I had another Julianne. I had to bring her along, because Kendall was definitely more hands-on than Julianne was. And yeah. As far as the boat, no, I hope I hope I treated you like one of my own, because you are,
No, you certainly. It was definitely. I was not enjoying my middle school or high school experience, so it was definitely like the light of my.
Oh, good.
The thing that I looked forward to most, and you and Kenny really kind of, because I had just lost my dad.
Yeah.
And you guys really had kind of stepped in and like opened up a whole new world for me and made me feel so welcome. And Kenny taught me how to drive.
You did?
Yeah.
I think we taught Ricky how to ride a bike.
He wasn't very patient.
Julianne.
He was very patient with Ricky.
But not with you guys learning how to drive a car?
I don't fucking remember it all. I blacked that out.
I thought you guys would always say, Mom, can you teach us? Because anyway.
I think he was a little intense, maybe. And I think that he was teaching Ricky after he had taught us. So
yes,
he had refined his own form.
And I feel like you both had kind of kid gloves on with me. You were very tender with me because I had been through something horrific.
A lot. Yeah.
And then tell us about your kind of experiences when Kendall remained the innocent one, but Julianne and I, when I came to visit, we started to wild out a little bit. And I was so scared after every time that I wouldn't be invited back.
You mean like, wait, when you guys would like sneak out or whatever? You will always be invited back. Are you kidding? No, I don't know. I don't
looking in a mirror.
She who jumps off bridges.
She who jumps off bridges.
Expecting it.
Oh, well, I think, Mom, that's kind of the point that we wanted to take you through is just what all that was like. And
was it kind of like a giant weight off of your guys' shoulders, like when we did finally know about Ricky, and then when we did meet them and everything was so fine?
A relief, yes.
Yeah.
And I questioned why, for whatever reason it took so long, but it was a huge relief. And also, I even back to when the very night that y'all met each other at Twin Peaks, and we went home to Fort Collins, and you guys were just like so reassuring and jumping on our bed and everything, that you were like just so jubilant about meeting each other and everything, but that we were solid, like as a family. All of my insecurities were just it was a relief. It was a huge relief and a long time coming. Yeah.
Well, I never thought about the fact that it might be really healing for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Very
pack up our shit and move to Missouri.
We'll see how
Maybe the grass has been a little greener.
God, what was I thinking? But that's just being honest. I'm telling you honestly what I felt.
Oh no, and we appreciate that. And I know that's always been a concern for you. And yes, we had our, and I don't think that this will hurt anyone's feelings, but I'm going to say it anyways. We had our interview with Kathleen. I know Kendall has always had a little bit of a closer relationship with Kathleen than I have, but even, just this interview that we had, that was really my first time actually sitting down and talking to her. And when Ricky and I did an interview for a podcast just this past Saturday, and there is that first like, oh, your adoptive dad versus your dad or whatever it is. And people snap into it pretty quickly it's never been how we have it or categorized it. You are our mother. Kathleen is Ricky's mother. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, what's going to be so exciting too about this doing the podcast is for people to kind of get a grasp on what that is like, how that relationship works, because it's never, and we'll talk about Dad and Lee, in later, but those relationships certainly were not diminished by the fact that neither one of those men was our biological father, or that you were not our biological mother, that it's
the way it
is as strong as ever. And we would never think of it any differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad that you all had that experience with Kathleen, because I think it just shows you what an unbelievable, angel on earth. What an incredible woman she is.
And I think that's kind of the perfect place to wrap us up is cannot thank you enough.
Thank you so much, Mom.
Kendall and I have always described you as one of the strongest person that we know, because you've been through a lot. And we demand, doing this podcast is going to be an experience for all of us. And I know it's caused you a little bit of anxiety already, but if there's anything that you could tell someone listening about any of this, or the adoption process, or what those relationships look like, or, how people can maybe frame this a little bit differently in their minds, what would it be?
Oh gosh. I guess just to embrace the situation and just to believe that I mean I have no regrets. I am so meant to be your mama, and all of the situations that I went through in my life led me up to the point where I was able to adopt you. And I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, and I was so meant to be your mom.
We agree.
Yeah.
We love you so
I love
so
you
much,
too.
Mom. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. And I apologize.
Thank you for being so open and honest and so brave, because I know it's really scary to share a lot of this stuff with, like, you know, whoever's going to be listening.
Our one listener.
I have nothing to hide. I'm so blessed to be your mom and to be a part of this. So thank you.
Well, we can't wait to see you. And we also wanted, maybe Ricky, do you want to tell Tina about any plans that we might have for her?
Oh my
Well, we've all decided that it would be cathartic and also fun as fuck if when we wrap the last episode of the podcast and it's aired, that us three and you and my mom all take a little beach trip together.
I would love that so much. I would love that.
Yay.
Let's do it.
Perfect.
We love you so much, Mom. We can't wait to see you in Austin. And
Love
I want you to know, I know this was a lot. We're all giving you big, big hugs tonight. And we think you're so brave and we love you so much.
Love you, Tina.
Love you. Love you.
What a powerful interview with Miss Tina. I really can't believe the way that both of our moms have showed up at this point. She was so, again, real, raw, vulnerable, incredibly cute still. A lot of that was new information to me, but what took you guys the most, or what surprised you the most, or?
She's always been very open with us, but some of the details about her encounter definitely very brave of her to share, and I just can't even imagine. But some of that was a little bit new, and then yeah, I think the rest is history.
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if there was a lot of new information. I think the way that she felt about things, that's always going to be new information. But just the way that she shared was new for us, because we have the tendency to shy away from difficult subjects. So we've never sat down and asked her about any of those things. So hearing them from the horse's mouth instead of kind of as like a remnant of a memory at some point was, I think, new for us, just to have an adult conversation with our mother as adults. And we love her for that and are so grateful. Yeah.
It did strike me when she talked about going through her parents' divorce and how she became her dad's peer at that time. That struck me because I remember the moment when she became my peer, and it was way farther down the line than that. So I think that's just like a testament to like how much of a mom that she has been to just like forever. She's just her mom.
Wow. Tell us about when she became your peer.
Oh, it actually has to do with this whole thing. I was supposed to go to Thanksgiving at Kathleen's for the first time with you. And it was the first time, I think, visiting her in Nebraska or something. There was something different about the trip that I wasn't super comfortable with, so I needed her as like a little like security blanket. And she ended up not going because she got an offer to go on an all expenses paid trip to Hawaii. And at the time I was like, you are horrible. Like, I was so mad for like a bit. And then like I took a step back and I was like, wait a second. I'm like 22 years old or something. Like, as an adult, am I gonna want to go to my daughter's birth mother's house in Nebraska for Thanksgiving? Or am I going to want to go on an all expenses paid trip to Hawaii? So that's when I was like, oh, wait. Parents are just people.
Parents are people.
Parents are people too.
Parents are just people. Yeah. So I remember it very distinctly, but that was when I was like, oh, wait a second.
She's a person. Wow. I think that's really special. I think she said a lot that was really special. I did not know that you guys are, I hope it's fun for the audience to literally be finding these things out at the same time as us. I know that I would be stoked on it. So voyeuristic. But I was very surprised to learn that there was a delay in coming to be able to pick their babies up because my dad wanted to swap me out for Julianne.
Can't blame him. I can't blame the guy.
I was the hardiest of the bunch.
That was some comic relief. That was hilarious. I love you too, Lee. Wherever you are out there, I love you too.
R.I.P. But what I was happiest to hear, because we've all openly wondered about the emotions that were going on and why we weren't able to meet sooner and who made that decision? Was it us? Was it them? But to hear that it was a huge weight off of her shoulders. Mm-hmm. For us to just meet, for my mom to be there, and for her to go home to her with her baby girls, and for you guys to just be jumping on their bed, not ever once being like, can we go live in the trailer? I was so happy to hear that. And I'm so excited to get these gals out on a trip with us.
So excited.
Oh, it's going to be so fun.
So fun. Well, next week, speaking of the trailer, we will...
It is called a modular home.
Speaking of the modular home, next week we will be talking about mostly my growing up. The struggles that were going on between my mom and my dad at the time, what it was like to grow up on that side of the poverty line, if you will. So I'll be hot on the mic, under the microscope with Jules and Kenny, kind of asking me questions. And I'll kind of go on TikTok and see if any of you guys have any questions about growing up on the plains of Colorado. I know that you are curious. So thank you for joining us for the second episode of Luke, Who is Your Father? We hope you leave feeling a little bit more normal in your own family dynamic, excited for the possibilities, and more curious about the world around you. Have a good week, take things in stride, and leave people better than you found them. Thanks to Tina for coming on this week's episode and being an absolutely beautiful and authentic guest. Thanks to Scribe Media for production, and sorry for all of the curse words. And thank you to Herzo for original music. We can't wait to talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.